Today, we're going to dive into a mindset, a way of thinking that separates the few from the many. I'm not talking about the privileged or the lucky. I'm talking about the thinkers, the doers, the ones who shape their own outcomes. The top 1% don't just have more, they think differently, they move differently. And it's not about money, not at the root of it. It's about how they see the world, how they process challenges, how they respond when most people retreat. If you can understand how they think, and more importantly, why they think that way, you'll begin to see just how much of success is internal before it's ever external. So let's begin by asking a simple question. Why do so few people reach the top? Why is it that out of millions of ambitious, capable people, only a fraction break through to the highest levels? It's not raw intelligence. It's not even talent. What sets the top 1% apart is mindset. It's how they approach problems, how they view time, how they handle failure, how they prioritize, and how they see themselves and others. First and foremost, the top 1% think long-term, really long-term. They're not chasing instant gratification. While others are making choices based on the next 24 hours, the top 1% are thinking about the next 10 years. They ask themselves, how does this decision affect my future? They understand that the greatest returns come not from impulse, but from patience. They don't just invest their money, they invest their time, their energy, and their focus with precision. Knowing the compound effect is real, they see the delayed payoff as an opportunity, not a burden. Most people are reactive. They respond to life, but the top 1% are proactive. They design their lives. They don't wait for conditions to be perfect. They start where they are, and they adjust as they go. They know that if you're always reacting to circumstances, you're always behind. Instead, they anticipate. They plan. They visualize. They execute with intent. It's not about being busy. Anyone can be busy. It's about being productive, purposeful, disciplined. They don't confuse motion with progress. You'll also notice something else. The top 1% have an exceptional relationship with failure. Most people avoid it. They fear it. They try to eliminate the risk of ever failing. But the top 1% embrace it as a learning tool. They see failure as feedback, not personal, not final, just information. Each setback is a data point, a guide, a correction. They know that failure is not the opposite of success. It's part of it. If you're not failing occasionally, you're not growing. You're not reaching. And reaching is what the top 1% do constantly. Beyond comfort, beyond certainty. Comfort, in fact, is something they don't rely on. Where most people seek ease, they seek growth. Growth often lives on the edge of discomfort. The top 1% condition themselves to be comfortable being uncomfortable. Whether it's waking up earlier than others, putting themselves in challenging rooms, taking on responsibility that stretches them, they don't back down. They don't look for the easy path. They know the easy path rarely leads to anything worth having. Another key difference is how they think about time. Time is not just something that happens to them, it's their most valuable resource. While the average person might trade time for money, the top 1% trade money for time. They automate, they delegate, they eliminate. They're not trying to do everything. They're trying to do the right things. And they're ruthless about it. Every yes is a no to something else. They protect their time like it's gold because they know that's exactly what it is. Their thinking also extends beyond themselves. The top 1% understand leverage, not just financial leverage, but human leverage. They know that collaboration, networking, and relationships compound success. They don't try to go it alone. They build teams. They create systems. They surround themselves with people who challenge them, who elevate them. They understand that your network can be your net worth, not because of transactions, but because of influence, exposure, and learning. While many people drift through life waiting for inspiration to strike, the top 1% are internally driven. Motivation isn't a mood for them, it's a habit. It's cultivated. They're driven by vision, by mission, by clarity. They wake up with purpose because they've defined it for themselves. They don't rely on external rewards to keep them going. They find energy in progress, in mastery, in the journey. Passion comes and goes. What keeps them going is discipline. They show up even when it's hard, even when it's boring, even when no one is watching. One of the most profound mental shifts the top 1% make is in how they see identity. Most people define themselves by their past, their environment, their circumstances. The top 1% define themselves by who they choose to become. They create identity consciously. I am a leader. I am a builder. I am someone who follows through. These aren't just affirmations, they're decisions. Identity shapes action. Action reinforces identity. It becomes a loop of empowerment. And because they see themselves in a certain way, they act accordingly, even before the external evidence exists. They also have an unshakable belief in ownership. No matter what life throws at them, they take responsibility. Even if it's not their fault, they make it their responsibility. Why? Because responsibility is power. The moment you blame, you give away control. But when you take ownership, you reclaim the ability to change your outcomes. The top 1% don't waste time complaining. They don't live in victimhood. They focus on what they can control, and they act on it. And let's talk about risk. The average person fears it. The top 1% assess it. They don't take blind risks. They take calculated ones. But here's the catch. They understand that not taking a risk is often the biggest risk of all. They know that playing it safe might feel comfortable, but it rarely leads to extraordinary results. So they prepare, they learn, they bet on themselves, and they step forward when others hesitate. Courage, not comfort, guides their decisions. There's also a mental shift in how they view learning. Learning doesn't end with school. For the top 1%, it never ends. They read, they question, they invest in coaches, mentors, courses. They are obsessive learners, not just to collect knowledge, but to apply it, to integrate it, to turn insight into action. While others are being entertained, they're being educated. And they understand that who you learn from matters. They seek wisdom from those who've walked the path, not just those who talk about it. You might be wondering, is this level of thinking innate? Is it natural or can it be developed? Here's the truth. While some may start with advantages, this way of thinking is available to anyone willing to rewire their mind. It takes awareness, intention, and practice, but it can be done. It starts by asking yourself better questions. Not why is this happening to me, but what can I learn from this? Not can I do this, but how can I do this? Not what do I feel like doing, but what needs to be done to get where I want to go. Language matters. Thoughts matter. The top 1% are conscious of their self-talk. They don't indulge in disempowering thoughts. They interrupt them. They redirect. They frame challenges as opportunities. They speak possibility, not limitation. They know the mind is a tool, and a dangerous one, if left unchecked. So they become the masters of their internal dialogue. Because if you don't command your mind, it will command you. You'll also find that the top 1% think about impact. They go beyond just success. They aim for significance. They think in terms of legacy, not just lifestyle. They ask, what am I building that will outlast me? It's not just about winning, it's about lifting others as they climb. And this gives their journey depth. It fuels them through adversity. It turns their work into a mission. Now, none of this is meant to glorify hustle culture or paint a picture of perfect humans who never falter. The top 1% struggle. They fail. They get discouraged. But the difference is, they don't stay there. They don't let a bad day turn into a bad week. They don't let emotion dictate their decisions for long. They recalibrate. They recommit. They keep moving forward. So where does that leave the rest of us? It leaves us with a choice. Not everyone wants to operate like the top one, with getting honest about what you believe, how you speak, how you show up. This isn't about comparison. It's about aspiration. It's about realizing that the gap between where you are and where you want to be is often filled, not with more effort, but with better thinking, strategic thinking, empowered thinking, purposeful thinking. Because the moment you shift your mind, everything else begins to shift too. Let me leave you with this. The top 1% didn't get there because this isn't just a casual preference. It's a fundamental mindset that governs nearly every decision they make. While many people live day to day, reacting to immediate circumstances and chasing quick wins, the top 1% operate with a horizon that extends years, even decades into the future. This long-term perspective allows them to prioritize differently, act differently, and ultimately achieve outcomes that most only dream of. When you think long-term, the choices you make today are no longer about instant gratification or short bursts of pleasure. Instead, every action is measured against its future payoff. This means they're willing to delay rewards, knowing that the most meaningful success doesn't come overnight. They understand the power of compounding, whether it's in investments, skills, relationships, or habits. Just like money compounds over time through interest, small positive decisions compound into massive benefits when given enough time to grow. This patience is a form of strength, not weakness, because it requires discipline to resist the temptation of easy or immediate satisfaction. Consider the way they approach opportunities. Most people might jump on something that promises quick results or easy gains. The top 1%, however, ask deeper questions. How will this affect my life in 5 years, 10 years? Will this opportunity align with my bigger vision? They think not just about what's immediately appealing, but what builds lasting value. This kind of foresight helps them avoid distractions and dead ends. It also means they don't get discouraged by the slow pace of progress. They know that slow progress sustained over time beats short bursts of frantic effort, followed by burnout. Long-term thinking also influences how they manage their resources. For example, while some might spend money on fleeting pleasures, the top 1% invest in assets that grow over time, whether that's real estate, stocks, education, or building businesses. They recognize that wealth built steadily and sustainably is far more resilient than wealth built on luck or speculation. This mindset extends beyond money too. They invest their time in learning and skill development, understanding that knowledge and expertise pay dividends in the long run. They surround themselves with mentors and build networks that support their growth over decades, not just months. This perspective also changes how they handle setbacks. Instead of viewing failure as a catastrophe, they see it as a temporary obstacle in a much longer journey. When you think long term, one failure or even several failures don't define your path. You know that success is rarely linear. It's a process of repeated attempts, learning, and improvement. This helps them maintain resilience and confidence, even when progress seems slow or invisible. They're playing a bigger game, and they have faith that their consistent efforts will pay off over time. Perhaps most importantly, long-term thinking shapes their identity and purpose. They aren't chasing status or recognition for the moment. They're building legacy. They want to create something meaningful that lasts beyond themselves. This can be a business, a body of work, a contribution to their community, or a family tradition. This deeper purpose fuels their persistence and keeps them aligned with their goals, even when immediate rewards are absent. In a world driven by instant results, short attention spans, and constant distractions, long-term thinking is a rare and powerful skill. It's the ability to hold a vision far beyond the present moment and to make disciplined choices today that create extraordinary outcomes tomorrow. It requires patience, self-control, and the courage to swim against the current of quick fixes. But for those who master it, the rewards are transformational, turning ordinary lives into extraordinary legacies. This is why the top 1% think differently, because they see beyond the now and invest in their future selves every single day. The difference between those who succeed at the highest levels and those who merely get by often comes down to a simple but powerful shift in mindset, being proactive rather than reactive. The top 1% don't wait for life to happen to them. They make life happen. This proactive approach is a game changer because it means they are in control of their destiny, not just at the mercy of circumstances or other people's agendas. Being proactive means taking initiative. It means seeing yourself as the creator of your own future rather than a passenger on a ride you can't influence. While many people wait for opportunities to come knocking, the top 1% go out and create their own doors. They don't wait for the perfect moment, perfect plan, or perfect condition. Instead, they start where they are, with what they have, and figure things out as they go. This willingness to act decisively, even amidst uncertainty, gives them a massive advantage. A reactive mindset is often characterized by passivity, responding to problems only after they arise, feeling like a victim of circumstance, or blaming external factors for setbacks. The reactive person waits for permission, for guidance, or for clear signs before moving forward. But the proactive thinker anticipates challenges before they arrive and plans accordingly. They stay ahead of the curve. Instead of being surprised by obstacles, they see them as expected parts of the journey and prepare mentally and practically. This proactive thinking also means setting clear goals and breaking them down into actionable steps. The top 1% don't rely on hope or wishful thinking. They translate big dreams into specific, measurable objectives and then work systematically toward them. Because they own the process, they constantly check progress and adjust strategies as needed. If something isn't working, they don't waste time complaining or blaming. They pivot, try new tactics, and keep moving forward. Importantly, being proactive extends beyond just taking action. It includes emotional and mental readiness. The top 1% develop a mindset that embraces responsibility and control over their emotions. When things don't go as planned, they don't spiral into frustration or despair. They pause, assess, and respond thoughtfully. This emotional regulation helps them maintain clarity and composure, which is critical for making smart decisions under pressure. Another aspect of their proactive mindset is seeking out learning opportunities and feedback continuously. They don't wait to be told what to improve or how to grow. They take the initiative to find mentors, read books, attend seminars, and expose themselves to new ideas. This self-driven growth mindset keeps them evolving constantly and ahead of those who remain passive or complacent. A proactive mindset also manifests in how they manage their time and energy. The top 1% don't let distractions or urgent but unimportant tasks dictate their days. They prioritize what truly matters, block out distractions, and create systems to maintain focus. They design their environment to support their goals rather than allowing chaos or external demands to control them. Finally, this mindset fosters resilience. When setbacks occur, the proactive individual doesn't freeze or give up. Instead, they respond with solutions and adjustments. They view obstacles as part of the process, not as reasons to quit. Because they take ownership of their path, they feel empowered to keep steering the course, no matter the difficulties. In essence, a proactive mindset is about being the driver, not the passenger of your life. It's about creating momentum through intentional actions, rather than drifting with the current of circumstance. This mindset fuels consistent progress, keeps frustration at bay, and ultimately leads to extraordinary results. The top 1% think differently because they understand that waiting for life to happen is a losing strategy. They make life happen by taking charge every step of the way. One of the most profound differences between the top 1% and everyone else is their relationship with failure. While most people fear failure and avoid it at all costs, the top 1% don't just tolerate failure, they embrace it as a necessary and invaluable part of the journey towards success. This mindset shift transforms failure from a dead end into a stepping stone, and it's one of the most powerful ways they think differently. For many, failure triggers feelings of shame, embarrassment, or defeat. It becomes something to hide or to blame on others. But the top 1% see failure as feedback, as raw, honest information about what isn't working. Instead of taking failure personally, they analyze it objectively. What went wrong? What can be learned? How can the approach be adjusted to get better results next time? This approach removes fear from failure and replaces it with curiosity and opportunity. Understanding that failure is inevitable is crucial. The top 1% know that no one reaches extraordinary heights without stumbling along the way. In fact, failure is often an essential part of the process. Thomas Edison famously said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." That kind of mindset is exactly what separates those who ultimately succeed from those who give up too soon. Failure isn't proof of incapacity, it's proof of effort and experimentation. Moreover, embracing failure means refusing to let one setback define you or stop your progress. The top 1% recognize that success is rarely a straight line. Instead, it's full of twists, turns, and bumps in the road. They don't view failure as a sign to quit, but as a signal to refine and continue. This resilience, the ability to bounce back stronger after setbacks, is a key part of their mental framework. It's what keeps them moving forward when others get stuck or discouraged. This mindset also changes the way they take risks. Fear of failure can paralyze people into inaction, leading them to play it safe and miss out on opportunities. But the top 1% aren't reckless. They take calculated risks with the understanding that even if they fail, it's a chance to learn and grow. The willingness to risk failure opens doors to innovation and breakthroughs that the cautious simply never attempt. Another important element is that the top 1% separate their identity from their failures. They don't see failure as a reflection of their worth or intelligence. Instead, they understand that failure is a temporary event, not a permanent label. This separation protects their confidence and self-esteem, allowing them to keep trying without fear of losing who they are. This mental distinction is vital because it encourages persistence and a growth mindset. Embracing failure also fosters humility and openness. The top 1% don't assume they know everything or that their first attempt is perfect. They are willing to seek feedback, admit mistakes, and make changes. This humility is a form of strength, not weakness. It keeps them teachable and adaptable, which are crucial qualities in a rapidly changing world. In essence, the way the top 1% think about failure transforms it from an enemy to an ally. It's not something to dread or avoid, but something to welcome, learn from, and use as a catalyst for improvement. This mental shift frees them from the fear that traps most people and empowers them to keep moving forward relentlessly. By embracing failure, the top 1% unlock their greatest potential and pave the way to extraordinary success. For them, time is not just a resource, it's the most precious asset they have. Unlike money, which can be earned back, time once lost is gone forever. This awareness shapes everything about how they live and work. The top 1% don't treat time like an endless commodity. They understand that how they spend their minutes directly impacts the quality of their life and the scale of their success. This means they're intentional and ruthless with their schedules. They don't let distractions, urgent but unimportant tasks, or other people's demands hijack their day. Instead, they design their days around priorities that move them closer to their long-term goals. One of the key ways they master time is by prioritizing what truly matters. While many people confuse being busy with being productive, the top 1% are laser focused on high impact activity. They ask themselves, what's the one thing I can do today that will make everything else easier or unnecessary? This kind of prioritization helps them avoid busy work and shallow tasks that consume time but don't create lasting value. Another hallmark of their time mastery is their ability to say no. Saying no is a skill many struggle with because it often means disappointing others or missing out on immediate opportunities. But the top 1% know that every yes is a trade-off. Saying yes to one thing means saying no to something else. They guard their time like a valuable asset and only say yes to opportunities that align with their vision and goals. This discipline protects their focus and energy. Delegation and automation are also critical tools in their time mastery toolkit. The top 1% don't try to do everything themselves. They leverage others' skills and technology to free up their own time for the most important work, whether it's hiring assistants, outsourcing tasks, or using software to automate repetitive processes. They build systems that allow them to operate efficiently and scale their efforts. They also create habits and routines that support consistency by structuring their days intentionally, whether it's waking up early, blocking out time for deep work, or scheduling breaks. They remove decision fatigue and maintain high levels of focus and energy. Their routines become the foundation for sustained productivity and prevent wasted time. Another key aspect is their ability to manage interruptions and distractions. The average person is bombarded with emails, messages, notifications, and social media that fragment their attention. The top 1% set boundaries around technology and communication. They designate specific times for checking emails or messages instead of constantly reacting. This control over their attention helps them maintain flow and produce higher quality work faster. Finally, their mindset around time is deeply rooted in long-term thinking. They don't just think about how to get through the day. They think about how to build habits and systems that compound over years. Every minute invested in learning, health, relationships, or business growth accumulates. This compounding effect is why they are able to achieve more with the same amount of time. In summary, time mastery is a deliberate and disciplined approach to how the top 1% manage their most finite resource. It's about prioritization, saying no, delegation, routine, and protecting attention. By mastering their time, they create the space and focus needed to achieve extraordinary results. This mindset transforms time from something that slips away unnoticed into a powerful ally on the path to success. One of the most defining traits of the top 1% is their unwavering commitment to ownership and responsibility. This means they fully own their actions, decisions, and outcomes, no matter the circumstances. They don't blame others, make excuses, or wait for someone else to fix their problems. Instead, they see themselves as the architects of their own lives and take full responsibility for everything that happens to them. This mindset of ownership is powerful because it shifts control back into their hands. When you blame others or external factors for your situation, you become a passenger in your own life, subject to forces beyond your control. But when you accept responsibility, you reclaim your power. You acknowledge that while you may not control every event, you control your response, and it's your response that ultimately shapes your results. The top 1% understand this deeply. They recognize that blaming others wastes energy and time, and more importantly, it erodes credibility and trust. Instead of complaining or playing the victim, they focus on what they can do to change their circumstances. They look for solutions, not excuses. This approach fosters problem solving, resilience, and growth. Ownership means being honest with yourself. It means looking in the mirror and asking tough questions. What role did I play in this outcome? What could I have done differently? What will I do next time? This kind of self-reflection isn't easy, but it's crucial for continuous improvement. It prevents stagnation and encourages learning. The top 1% don't shy away from accountability. They welcome it because it helps them grow stronger. Taking responsibility also means being proactive rather than reactive. The top 1% don't wait for instructions or approval to act. They anticipate challenges and take initiative to address them before they become bigger problems. This foresight and ownership build trust with others and open doors to greater opportunities and leadership roles. This mindset extends beyond personal accountability to how they interact with others. The top 1% take responsibility for their relationships, their teams, and their environments. They don't blame coworkers, family, or external factors for conflicts or failure. Instead, they work to find solutions, mediate issues, and lead by example. This level of ownership creates respect and inspires others to follow their lead. Moreover, ownership means they take responsibility for their emotions and attitude. They don't let frustration, anger, or fear control their decisions. Instead, they recognize these emotions but choose how to respond thoughtfully. This emotional ownership gives them clarity and stability, especially in high-pressure situations. Importantly, this mindset transforms obstacles into opportunities. When faced with setbacks, the top 1% don't say, "This isn't my fault." Instead, they ask, "What can I learn from this? How can I adapt?" They turn challenges into stepping stones rather than roadblocks. In essence, ownership and responsibility are about empowerment. They shift the narrative from being a victim of circumstance to being the leader of your life. This mindset creates accountability, resilience, and self-trust, all critical ingredients for sustained success. The top 1% think differently because they don't wait for change to happen. They make it happen by owning their journey every step of the way. One of the most fundamental ways the top 1% think differently is through their relentless commitment to continuous learning and growth. They don't see success as a final destination, but as an ongoing journey that requires constant adaptation and improvement. This mindset keeps them evolving, relevant, and always a step ahead in an ever-changing world. At the core, continuous learning is about humility, recognizing that no matter how much you know or have achieved, there's always more to discover. The top 1% refuse to fall into the trap of complacency. They understand that resting on past accomplishments leads to stagnation, while the world around them continues to move forward. By staying curious and open-minded, they ensure they keep growing their skills, knowledge, and perspective. This commitment manifests in many ways. The top 1% are voracious readers, often dedicating time daily to books, articles, podcasts, and research that expand their understanding. They don't rely solely on formal education, but seek learning from diverse sources, mentors, peers, experiences, and even failure. They treat every situation as a potential lesson, always asking, "What can I learn here?" Importantly, they apply what they learn. Knowledge alone isn't enough. The top 1% translate learning into action. They experiment with new ideas, refine their strategies, and adopt best practices that move them closer to their goals. This willingness to implement and iterate accelerates their progress and separates them from those who only accumulate information but fail to act. They also actively seek feedback. Constructive criticism is a gift rather than a threat. The top 1% welcome honest input from trusted advisors, colleagues, and even competitors. This feedback loop helps them identify blind spots and areas for improvement. They don't shy away from discomfort or defensiveness. Instead, they see feedback as an opportunity to sharpen their edge. Another critical aspect of their growth mindset is resilience. Learning isn't always comfortable. It often involves confronting weaknesses, making mistakes, and stepping outside of comfort zones. The top 1% embrace this discomfort, understanding that growth requires pushing boundaries and enduring challenges. They view setbacks as part of the learning curve, not as failures that define them. Continuous learning also means adapting to change. The pace of technological advancement, market shifts, and social evolution means skills and strategies that worked yesterday may not work tomorrow. The top 1% stay agile by constantly updating their knowledge and skill set. This adaptability allows them to seize new opportunities and pivot when necessary, rather than being left behind. Their growth mindset extends beyond professional life to personal development as well. They invest in their physical health, emotional intelligence, relationships, and overall well-being because they recognize that true success is holistic. By growing in all areas, they build the energy, focus, and balance needed to sustain high performance over time. Ultimately, this commitment to continuous learning and growth fuels their confidence and creativity. They don't fear the unknown, they approach it with curiosity and preparation. This mindset transforms obstacles into opportunities and turns challenges into stepping stones. In summary, the top 1% think differently because they never stop learning. They understand that growth is a lifelong process requiring curiosity, action, feedback, resilience, and adaptability. This mindset not only keeps them at the top of their game, but also allows them to continually redefine what success means and how to achieve it.